Coast of the United States. If that's the time it is as you watch this, you're watching it live. If it's not that time, you're watching it recorded. Either way, you're going to love it. We're streaming, running the bumper, recording, chat room, waiting. Everything's right. Ben Cooper standing by in our green room, and we start a countdown to Studio 36 Alpha starting now. Well, good evening and welcome back to PJNet.TV Part 2. It's 9:30 or so, 9:31, and Ben Cooper is with us. Now, Ben normally would have been with us last week. Ben appears once a month, and but last week, folks, the platform just went kaflooey. It just went poof. Everything was fine here, but if you can't connect out there, Ben is standing by. I remind you again, I commend Ben. Because he always prays before we go on the air, and he's prayed for the connection. As many of you noticed, it kind of dropped, but Ben prayed specifically and more importantly for the spiritual connection. Ben, glad to have you. Sorry this took so long, but you've had an extra week to think about what you wanted to talk about. You going to stick with apple cider or what?
Well, sure, I'm going to do that, but I probably was more prepared last week than I am this week because I've been busy, and we just hope that I can motivate somebody like Jake did at the previous the guest spot. I really never even thought of praying for the wait staff in a restaurant, and
Really?
asking them to pray, to pray for them while they're there. That was just an amazing thing.
Yeah, and well, for some people, the challenge would be to actually say a blessing in a public place. Some of us chicken out at that.
Never a problem with me. So, but I'm always the go-to. Ask my family, the kids, or whatever, and most of the time they shy away. But I like, and you always get somebody that comes and say, you know what? I noticed that you prayed.
Really?
People are watching.
Well, and I notice when people do, the most embarrassing one the one that I'm the most ashamed of is I was with it was a business lunch type thing, and the person I was meeting with, I did not know if they were a believer or not. So we ordered, we were at a buffet, so I told him, I said, well, you go ahead. So while he's getting his meal, I'm praying. I really chickened out. I mean, that was pretty crappy. That was, but at least I prayed. But
yeah,
that was
God will
very
give you
coward.
Another time.
That was very coward. That's just, and I don't even remember how important a business client this was. I mean, I don't even remember if they bought anything, to be honest. But either way, no, Jake's got some pretty good stuff. You stay so busy Are you officially retired? I mean, you are, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm drawing a pension, so I guess that means I'm retired. But I'm teaching 2 classes at the college on each week right now, Monday nights and Thursday nights. About every other week, I have a guest podcast recording to do, and still messing with bees. I was at somebody's place today, just helping them, mentoring them, and got vine words and guidepost writings to do. And so there's just always something, and I'm looking forward to November because my calendar so far, it clears off a lot more in November, but I know I sent a photo to you, Coach, of some activities I was involved with last year and the year before and last weekend.
Is this it?
Well, that's one of them. That's what it looks like when the apples go up the conveyor belt and come out. If you imagine cold slaw, those apples go upstairs into a chipper and come down that chute. My back is to you. My brother is on the other side. You can see him. For the last 3 years in the fall, we've been running an 150-year-old apple cider press that came originally from upstate New York, I think. And the family was actually there this past weekend, about 10 days ago, that donated it. And we just learned how to do it on the fly because the people that did it for 25 years decided they didn't want to do that anymore. And so my brother said, yep. And when my brother, he's an older brother. So when he says yes, that means I've got to do whatever he says because of that birth order thing. It's just I got to follow him. But it's steam powered. So there's a steam room across the road, and the steam comes underneath through a pipe, and it's all steam powered. We probably made a week ago Saturday, we pressed 9 batches, and those batches will actually squeeze down to maybe 45 to 50 gallons of cider, fresh squeezed cider. And they use 4 or 5 different varieties of apples to mix them up to give you a blend of fall apples. And when the steam starts building up in them, and that it sounds like a wood chipper, and it goes down through the chipper in the upstairs platform into that chute, people just start lining up. They want to see it. There's an observation window, and kids want to see what's going on. And they just start lining up. And 9 batches on Saturday, every time they heard that machine kick on, we sold out of what cider we jugged up, and kept having to do it and do it and do it again. And then Sunday we did one more batch, and that was done. But the people like to see it working, that 150-year-old machinery. And I'll have to say, this is done north of Pittsburgh, probably about 45 minutes north of Pittsburgh. And it's in an old tractor and steam engine association property. And they have 3 shows a year. I go to all 3. My brother and dad and I and some others help rebuild a log cabin on that property. And so it's fashioned like an old trading post. And then there's a blacksmith shop next to our trading post. Then there's a livable live-in log cabin and a barn and steam powered stuff. It's just old school farming machinery, and people come and get to walk around. There's 25 acres, huge flea market to buy old stuff, and people just like it. It's close enough to Pittsburgh to get a pretty good crowd. And it's been going on since, I know my family's been involved with it since the 70s, but we got started with the old, we called them one-lunger engines. Are you familiar with those? A flywheel engine.
Yes, I am.
Or
It has its maximum horsepower at 0 RPM.
Yeah, and we got a couple of those and would go and set up a little display. And then it got into old tractors, and then tractors that we had at the farm that was sold off, and then bought one similar. And so it just keeps building and building, and it gives me a venue to not only a place to sell my books, it gives me a place to sell honey, and the connection is more important than whether you make any money or not, is showing people how things were done old-fashioned way. And I've got something I'm hoping to have next year as a new tool, is an old tool that I'm going to try to remake one. It's a rope maker. It's a rope maker that twists and makes 1 strand into 3 strand, and let people actually engage them, as Jake was talking about. That's what that's is, engaging them so that they can make a section of twisted or braided rope, and then they can walk away with it as a memorial keepsake thing. And so that's kind of on my to-do list for next year for the 3 shows that we have.
Now the steam engine, gosh, there's so many things. The steam engine is used in this case to actually provide the hydraulic, the piston that presses the apple. Is that, or is it providing rotary power to grind them up first, or how does it? Why is the steam engine?
It does both. It provides with belt-driven equipment.
Right.
It runs the chipper
Uh huh.
that
To
chips the apples,
Yeah,
and
into
they're
manageable
outside.
pieces, and then they press.
And then we have that picture that you showed my brother and I with what I called cold slaw, and that chute that comes down. Uh, we have to actually what you see there is a wooden rack covered with a burlap blanket.
Okay.
So that burlap blanket has to be, it can't be mounted. It's got to be flat.
Right.
And then that burlap blanket, the edges get folded in. That
Hmm.
chute raises up. That guy that you can see his hands
Right.
has a counterbalance weight to lift that chute up and down. Because you got apples juice and pieces flying if that was all the way up. And by the way, you also have every known yellow jacket within a
Hmm.
3 mile
Yeah.
radius flying around you, which doesn't bother me. But those blankets get folded up, and they have to be flat because if you have a raised area, it's not going to give the full pressure. And we do 3 lifts of those blankets. Pull that wooden rack up and put another wooden rack, flat rack
Right.
down, and then the form that gives us about 3.5 inches of chopped up apples, and we can keep folding those until we get 3 high. Then that gets pulled with a block and tackle piece of
Mhm.
rope by hand under the press. The press is basically 4 big spindles with gears on it, and that steam pressure provides 90 ton of push or press on those 3 racks. And the process takes about an hour and a half to do a batch. To clean everything and wash everything and get it back, it takes us about an hour and a half. So a week ago Saturday, we were busy doing 9 batches. And then, it's just using that whole platform is on a stainless steel bed and about a 1% grade. So anything that squeezes goes down and
Hmm.
filters out, goes into a pump, into a bulk tank, and then the people that are jarring the half gallons or gallons up uh, are there and selling it to the crowd. Hot cider or cold cider or a cup, or you can buy a gallon and a half gallon. I think we did somewhere between 500 and 600 gallons in those 10 presses.
So you keep calling it cider, and I've seen apple cider. What's the difference between apple cider and just apple juice?
To me, it's the same thing. It's because it's as fresh as what you're ever going to get because we're pressing it right there, and
Now,
people see
I
that.
actually Red Delicious is my favorite apple because of its not only because of its sweet flavor, but it's also economical. It's the cheapest apple, and I actually like it the best. I actually keep Ben. In my wife bought a little one of those little miniature refrigerators, for the eagle's nest, and I keep a bag of those apples in there at all times because here lately I've been lumberjacking, and my doctor, I'm diabetic, so I can't. You don't drink sugar water, okay? You just don't drink that. He said if you want an apple, if you feel like apple juice, eat an apple because now you're getting the skin and the pulp and the fiber. But that is the perfect pick me up when you've been out there swinging an axe, folks. It takes about 1 minute to get completely out of breath swinging an axe, and I'll cut the tree down with a chainsaw, because it's 4 to 6 inches at the base. But once I get it down, the rest I do with an axe, even though I could use the chainsaw. That would be no fun. It's part of my anger management. I can
I've got
beat something up.
yeah, I've got apple trees. I've got apple trees that are dropping more apples and the deer are eating them than what you could eat. But what we smashed into apple cider, and maybe the apple juice won't ferment because it was heat processed and homogenized and heat processed to sanitize it. What we do, it's not heated. It's not basically what you would sell in a store. So, in a short period of time, a week later, that apple cider will start going hard on you. The
Hmm.
apple juice will not, and that may be because of that heat process to pasteurize the apple cider, and it will last longer. But the unpasteurized will ferment a lot quicker. So I
Right.
don't know if that's the difference between, you wouldn't want to be selling apple cider to the grocery store and 3 days later it turns into
Right.
hard apple
Yeah.
cider and then eventually vinegar, and
Yeah.
it eventually will turn into the vinegar, that apple cider vinegar. But and as I was doing that and thinking about, well, I need to talk about something, it's great to do those old to remember those old techniques, especially when somebody donates the entire apple cider press, and all the parts that make it run. That building was built to accommodate the press, the upstairs and everything, and the elevator that went up, and then close enough to the steam building that they could run pipes under the ground to run that, and away from where people, because sometimes, Coach, even us, we need to let off a little steam, and you don't want the public to be close to that because it's pretty warm. And here lately we've had a lot of reasons to be pressed down and to be from all sides. When running that press, it's just coming down from the top, and you can't press it down too fast. We've got basically a gearing that you can twist a rod that hangs down, and you can make that press go really fast. But what you'll end up doing is blowing holes in that burlap sack.
Hmm.
That blanket will get ruptured because you're pressing it too fast, and it takes a slow, steady press to get the good out of it. And then there's this pulp that's left over, and we flip those blankets, run it out into a dumpster, and most of the time, some farmer will come and gather all that up, take that dumpster, clean it out, and feed it to pigs or livestock. Horses love that just as well as an apple. Most of the juice is squeezed out, but you could actually boil that down further and make apple butter out of what's left over from that pulp. But we don't do that. Just give it to a local person that would feed it to livestock. But thinking about, you know, whether it's somebody, whether it's COVID, whether it's a health issue, whether it's a work issue, politics, things that are, especially in the last 18 months, we're getting pressured all the time. If it came from all sides and came too fast, it would just blow us apart. And and I think we complain a lot when things don't go, when the connection doesn't work, Coach. It doesn't make you feel good. You might not complain on the air, and you may, but it just gets frustrating when things are out of our control and the pressure starts coming in. Imagine 90 ton of pressure slowly coming down on you, because of work, family relationships, any relationships, even our spiritual relationships. And I think of, probably besides Job in the Old Testament, who had all kinds of pressures coming upon him and still was found faithful and didn't lose his trust in God. In the New Testament, the Apostle Paul just kind of explained some of the pressures that he had. And I'm going to read what the Apostle Paul had. He was pressed down and he didn't implode or explode, but he had a lot of reasons to be upset, but he basically weathered the storm. In 2 Corinthians 11:25-28, this is Paul's words saying, 3 times I've been beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked. A night and a day I was adrift at sea, on frequent journeys, in danger from rivers, dangers from robbers, dangers from my own people, dangers from Gentiles, danger in the city, danger in the wilderness, danger at sea, danger from false brothers, in toil and hardship, through many a sleepless night, in hunger and thirst, often without food, in cold and exposure, and apart from other things, there is the daily pressure on me of my anxiety for all the churches. Paul knew what pressure was. And I really like his attitude that, if I had my way, Lord, take me home, take me to
Hmm.
heaven. But if you want me to stay here, I'm going to be busy serving these churches and trying to get them um, to where they need to be spiritually. And I think when the pressures of COVID and health and employment and finances and relationships all come down on us, we need to say, you know what, I wish I wouldn't have this, but I do. And by the grace of God, I'm going to keep mustering through. And even though that pressure is cranking down a little bit tighter on me, I don't want to explode. I want to basically, my release is doing things and doing the work that the Lord's called me to do. For writers, it might be that. For people providing a platform, coach, that's you. For pastors like Jake and some of the others, the opportunity to share from the pulpit. I think we need to have that spiritual release when those pressures come in. What's your thoughts?
Ben, those are all true thoughts, and those are good thoughts. But I'm going to add to it. Oh, without the pressure, there would be no product, sir. You cannot make apple cider without pressure. Okay? When you fire a firearm, a gun, okay, it is the pressure that propels that bullet down the barrel. Uh, when you look at a pretty diamond, that diamond is only beautiful because it was put under a lot of pressure. But so often, Ben, we want the product, but we just don't want the pressure first. See, the pressure comes before the product,
Right.
and we have to endure the pressure. Folks, we need to embrace the pressure, okay? Because without it, there is no product. The thing that we desire, I had a post I made. We often, in trying to press forward, and Paul uses this word, press on, but Paul guides us and says, keep your eye on the prize, not the pressure. See, when we try to move forward in any endeavor, whether it be writing a book, in a relationship, in our relationship with God, in our relationship with our fellow brothers and sisters in Christ, in our economic, whatever the venue may be, if we're trying to move forward, there's going to be a cost. I'm out running over a mile a day now, and I don't like it. But don't focus on the cost. Focus on the prize. And Paul reminds us, keep our eyes fixed on Jesus Christ. You probably heard the story, about the back in the day of plowing with a mule. Okay, you want to plow a straight line, right? How do you do that, Ben? How do you plow straight? You don't
You
look at the
look at,
plow.
you look down at the end of the field.
You look down range to where the goal is. And if and the same is true when you're driving. People that weave, in the traffic lane, going from one side to the other. Well, that's because they're not looking. They look further down range. Keep your eye on the prize. It is the pressure that makes the product. So when pressure comes our way, know that it's the cost, but keep your eye on the prize. Push, pull, climb, dig, run, do whatever you have to do. But don't focus on the cost, because that's what Satan wants us to do, is look short term. All of his propositions are short term, I wonder why. Because his long term prospects are not that good. In fact, they're bad. So anyway, that was more of a sermon than you asked for. Um,
That's okay.
Created
That's
Critters
okay.
with Fur. Ben, so many books are coming out,
Yeah,
but
that's coming out next month. It's available on pre-order right now on Amazon, and waiting for uh, the actual publisher to give the okay to the proof for the
mhm.
first run. When you do a children's picture book, that's illustrated with the colors. And I'll have to say that when my first book, Created Critters with Wings, had has a hidden bee in each of the illustrations that Sandy Arnold has done for me,
Really?
and we agreed to put because the smallest creature, a mouse, that's an that has fur. We've got a mouse hidden on in each of these and Created Critters with Fur, so that gives the kids and the adults, so I'm told, fun time. The kids can find the hidden images far greater than us visually challenged adults, and they enjoy looking at it and looking for them. And so, yeah, another book coming out almost exactly to a year when the first one came out. And so, just enjoying seeing that. I never thought when I wrote my first book, and it came out in 2019 in January, and then I realized, well, I had a book come out last year and a book come out this year, and a book that at least some writing, my guidepost writings, will be next year. That I've got to, I'm not as busy as some writers because I'm busy with other things as well. But to say that I'm having a book coming out each year is
Hmm.
looking further down at the end of that field. And
Who would
you've
have thought? Yeah. I was thinking about you over the weekend. I was clear. There's some forested area between along the property line. Trees that were once 2 fingers big. Have become 4 inches and 6 inches, and that could have been dealt with. Well, I thought about you. Created critters that are poisonous.
you like your snakes, don't you?
Well, yellow jackets, dad gum.
Oh,
Oh man, and they were angry. They were very angry. I've actually been very fortunate. One small wasps are not near as aggressive. You know,
once you
but
get in the hornet and the yellow jacket,
yeah. No, we
yeah,
don't have a lot of hornets down here, Ben. They do
yellow
exist,
jackets are technically wasps, so
are they?
they're part of that same
Yeah.
family. But
Somebody called them a ground bee. I said no, no, no. This is no ground bee. These things are angry, and they swarm, and they'll chase you. They'll pursue you. They're terrible.
just gives you a little image, Coach, of that creature that flies and comes out of the abyss or the pit. In Revelation tells us about that, and I can think it could be like these murder hornets that you hear about, the Asian hornets that will actually kill. I have European hornets here that actually kill the bees. They just go
Really?
right at the entrance of the hive, and they will chop them in half. They bite them in half. But uh, visually, it makes me think of the biggest, nastiest yellow jacket you can think of that's got the face of a person on it in Revelation and comes after people, chases them, and just downright evil.
They are very punishing. I have not seen any snakes thus far, but my intent is to clear that area because it is a very good habitat for snakes. And of course, it's getting cold. It will get cold soon. And the mice, of course, are going to find little havens. And I want to restrict the amount of square footage that they can call home. They can call home way over there, way. There's a plantation to the north of me,
Somebody else's property.
on somebody else's property, but so it's been quite a challenge. But I did think about you, created critters that are poisonous. Anyway, well, Ben, it's always a
I'll keep
joy.
that in mind.
Yeah, yeah. If you really get hurting for ideas, there's one. Okay, but go with everything else first that comes to mind because this one would be. But I do wonder sometimes, why do these things exist? Dragonflies are my friend. They eat mosquitoes. They eat twice their weight. Mosquitoes. We got mosquitoes bigger than we shoot them with low brass eights over here, Ben. We we do. Well, Ben, appreciate you sharing your. I wanted to ask you with the coming of age. You're seeing more and more hemp and cannabis products now being sold at the consumer level. Whatever happened to hemp rope?
I think it all got smoked up. It went up in smoke.
Went, went up in
People
smoke.
still, you can still buy it. You can still buy it, and people will use it, especially in the organic gardening, where you're not allowed to use anything that's treated for. A lot of the twines are treated with a poisoning, so that if rats would chew it, they
Oh,
would die. And so a baler twine, a lot of times will come with some chemical coating to it. But in the organic world, if you're certified organic, you can't use that. So they'll use hemp rope and hemp twine for that instead, because it's organic.
yeah. Because I think that, the hemp rope that I haven't used, but that I'm accustomed to seeing is used in shipyards. It's a big, and it's soft. And if it gets pinched, between the dock and the ship, it won't mash and sever and fuse together. It's incredibly durable, but it does not float. It gets heavy. So the sailors don't like it when it's wet. But
Well, if I build this rope machine, maybe I can let you borrow it, and you can you can make some
well,
um,
grow
hemp rope if you
grow
want.
grow a stalk or two up there, and we'll put it through there and see what happens. But I'd
I'm
be
not gonna,
interested.
yeah, I'm not gonna grow it. They grow it close by medicinally for CBD oil and
Yeah,
that kind of
of
stuff.
course. Yeah.
They have a grower place, so I
Mm,
stay away from that.
yeah.
People want
We
to know if you can eat the honey that they would get off of the flowers, and you can, but that isn't going to give me a reason to
no.
grow some
There's
of that.
no. Well, we grow a lot of corn and grain, down here for medicinal purposes, and we'll have to give a lesson on the distillation. This was actually in college, part of our chemistry. We learned how alcohol boils at 171 degrees. How convenient. So, all right. Well, Ben, appreciate you sharing, and we'll see you. Gosh, we only got 3 weeks, I guess, until we see you next time. Sorry about the way things went off the rails last week, but it was worth the wait, and we appreciate you sharing with us tonight. You're always so gracious.
All right, thanks, Coach.
All right, appreciate it. There you see. Hey, there is. Look, hey, watch this. See that camera right there? Ching! Oh, and now it's over there. Hey, all right. Folks, that's the Eagle's Nest. That's where we do the broadcast here at pjnet.tv. What a wonderful evening it has been. Special thank you to those of you who have joined us in the pjnet.tv chat room. You are the lifeblood of the Swedish Fellowship on the internet. I always love, as soon as I get off the air, I go read things. I read to see what people say. And it's always a blessing. Folks, it's been a wonderful evening. Hope you'll join us tomorrow night, and we start about 9 o'clock Eastern. We've got so many guests coming up and so many things happening, and thanks, a special shout out to Sunbelt Girl, Barbara, our associate producer. She's out there shaking the trees and the leaves and the fruit fall, so we can press it into service here. Folks, if you have time, which you do, and I'm sure you will, to ask yourself 2 simple yet profound questions. Together they form a challenge. The first question is this. Ready? It's not multiple choice. What is the boldest thing that you have ever done for Jesus Christ and the kingdom of God? And the second is, how long ago was it when you did that? Let's not be satisfied with either answer.